Some introductions. So my name is Sam Connor. I'm part of the sales team. Hosted edition of Bitrix24. Then we offer our own hosting services, and we can provide you with training and ongoing support to ensure you get the biggest return on investment from using Bitrix24. Okay, so what is Bitrix24? So it is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 40 different tools that you can use to help you to manage your business. And there are over 10 million customers now around the world that use Bitrix24. And the system is available in two different editions. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud and the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. And prices start from around $49 per month for a basic cloud license, and for a self-hosted edition starting with the Business 50 package, that starts off at $2,990. Okay, so in today's webinar we're going to be focusing on the HR features within the Bitrix24 system. So really what we want to do before we go into the webinar in detail is just discuss why you should be using Bitrix24 for HR. So first of all, it has some really nice tools for enabling you to find your employees and store employee information in different areas of the software. So we can manage people's work time, and their personal areas can be used for storing documents such as contracts and appraisal documents. We'll then have a look at some of the self-service forms that we can use for managing absence requests, for example, such as other workflows, maybe our expenses, purchase requests. You can essentially create your very own workflows and processes inside the system. So the HR features really are completely customizable to the processes that you would want to run. So for example, we'll see later on how we could manage a custom process such as the onboarding of new staff within the business. Okay, so first of all, we're going to have a look at the key HR tools within the Bitrix24 system. So we'll have a look at the profile and company structure. Then we'll move on to look at the time management features and where you can store documents within your own personal drive area. And then we'll look at how we can engage with our employees. And it's really important to be able to do this with a lot of people remote working or kind of a hybrid approach now to working. You're not in the office together all the time. It's important to be able to engage with your employees. We'll see how we can do that really well in Bitrix24. And then we'll look at the self-service forms and processes. Okay, so first of all, let's just go into, and we can see here we can customize. For example, now further down I can see all my badges of appreciations. So we'll look at this in more detail shortly, so you can have appreciation sent to you when you've done a good job. What we do is we can create a company structure. So inside here we can lay out all of the different departments of the business, and we can then add each user to their relevant departments inside the system, or it could be multiple departments that we add the user to. And we can have, so this is where we can see all of the details about our employees. I know I need to go and see Matt Smith. Okay, and then within each user as well, what we can do is we can communicate with people. Okay, so let's go back into here, and let's say I want to communicate with Mark. So we're able to communicate with them through the system as well. Okay, moving on, let's just now go and look at some of the time management features of Bitrix24. So you can see here across the top of the system here, we have a clock in and a clock out tool. So what we can enable on the professional cloud system and all self-hosted editions is this time management tool. So you can log each user's time in the system. So let's just say now I'm going to be taking my break. So I can click on my break, and it will now start recording my break time inside the system. Okay. And then I can go back and continue. And then from there, what we can do is if we go into our time and reports module, we'll just have this scroll up to here. Then what we can do is we can see all of the amount of accrued time inside the system. So if we go to our work time area, what we can see then is all of the time across the business for each person in the system. So I can see here yesterday Max Smith logged 11 hours, 25 minutes. So we can see that time when they've clocked in, when they've clocked out, and we can even comment back on any of these conversation reports as well. Okay, so we can then see all of that information in here. Now, we can also set statistics. So if you're wanting to kind of see the statistics in the board here, we can turn on the statistics page as an administrator. And we can also set schedules. So it could be you want the users to be clocking in and clocking out by a certain time for each maybe period of time. So we can set schedules inside the system. So here, for example, we're setting the schedule for certain people. So they have to clock in at 9 o'clock and clock out at 5 p.m. with 1 hour of break. So they have to be working for 7 hours within those days for that particular schedule. And then we can set different rules on here. So you may say they can clock in, for example here we're going to say they can clock in up to 1 hour before the 9 o'clock deadline, and we could also do the same for when they clock out. And if they haven't clocked in by that certain time, we can then set rules up. So you might want to notify the HR manager, for example, or supervisors. So we can set up some really nice rules to make sure all of your staff are clocked in by specific time periods, or you're made aware of this. And another area we can record time is actually within tasks. So if we go into the task area, this is where we can store all details about the tasks we're working on in the system.
Yeah, so the main reason for it is when you create a deal, you can just pass those two IDs for the contract.
Okay, so if we go into a task page, then what we can do inside here is we can record time on the task. So I'm going to click on the time tracker, and it's now logging the time that I'm recording directly inside the task page itself. Okay, so that's another area where we can manage time within the system. Another really nice feature for HR is the drive area. So this can act as a drive repository for you to store all of your personal documents. So it could be, for example, we have an absence request here, for example, or a performance review. So inside here we can store documents, so from our local area or from external applications. And it could be maybe want to share this with particular people inside the system. So let's say, for example, I want to share this with my manager, for example. So I can go into the permissions, and what I can do from here is I could choose my administrator, and then I could say I'm going to give them full access to this document. Or it could be maybe read access or edit, for example. So we can set access rights on any files or folders we have in the system. And then we also have a company drive. So this is really your company repository, so we can set folders and files for maybe each department within the system. So we can then route people to the relevant area that they need to be able to access. Okay, so moving on, we're going to now look at the employee engagements area. So this is really important now with a lot of people hybrid working, so you don't have everybody in the office all at one time. So you need to be able to engage with your staff all the time, essentially. So within the system here, we have a collaboration area. So this is your very own personal feed section of Bitrix24. So within here, what we can do is any messages, any tasks, anything really we are associated with, it will be fed into your feed section. So this is very much like your own personal newsfeed board within your Bitrix24 system. And so within here, what I could do is I could send out a message to people. So let's say, for example, the office is closed this Friday. So I can give a title for this message, and then I can type out the rest of the message within this page. Okay, so I've typed out my message, and then I can choose who the audience is for this particular message. So let's say, for example, I want to send it to a specific department. I can select the department, or maybe a specific user group. But what I will do for this message, it's a critical message, so I'm going to send it out to everybody within the business. And so from there, that message is now added into everyone's feed section. And now, because this has gone to all employees, everybody in here can then add their own likes. They can add their own comments and conversations back. So maybe somebody has a question about that post. They can add their own question into this particular post. So all of your communications are really focused on each topic. And within this area, we can create tasks. We can create events. So you may have company events you want to invite people into. We can create polls. So this is really useful. So let's go for maybe day of next office events. Okay, so in here we can then give people different answers that they can select from. Okay, and we can have a multiple choice as well, but let's just send this out to people. And then people can add their own message. So sorry, let's just finish this off. Okay, so let's now send this out to all employees. Okay, and then from there people can then give their votes. So let's say we're going to vote for Saturday, and now we can see the score there. So it's a really nice, useful way. There's different you can send out to people within the business. Okay, and we're just going to show a few additional features within here as well.
Yeah, and I think it will actually max out. So once they hit that character limit.
So what we could also do in here is we could maybe send an appreciation. So if somebody's done a really good job, what we can then do is select a badge for them, select who this is going to, and then we can, I'm going to send this out to everyone in the sales team, because this is, John is part of the sales team, so we're going to send this to John and add a message. Then what we can see is all of our appreciations inside here, so I can click on those and see what that was for, and I can see the message and any comments that were given to me about this. Okay, so that's a really nice, useful feature within the system. And then we also have a bigger return on your investment of using Bitrix24. Okay, so let's just see if we have any questions that have come in. Okay, so a question here, am I able to change the branding? I need to go through those during the intervals of today's webinar. So now what we're going to focus on is some of the different types of self-service forms that you can use in Bitrix24. So these are really powerful areas of the Bitrix24 system, because essentially what these allow you to do is create your very own workflows inside the system. Now we're going to look at one or two specific types of workflows, but if you need any help and assistance with creating your own workflows, or if you're looking to outsource the creation of these, please do get in contact, because we are very experienced in implementing and also customizing existing workflows that maybe you set up that you need some support with. So please do contact sales@intraface.com if you need any assistance. But let's now take a look at a few of these in some more detail. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at today is being able to run holiday vacation requests inside the system. So let's go into here and open up the request leave form. Okay, so what I want to do is actually request some time off inside the system. So this has now opened up the request leave form, and we can see here the form has specific mandatory fields that we need to input information for. Now, this form is completely customizable, so there may be additional fields that you want to have on this form. That's absolutely fine. But also you can remove the mandatory elements of each field as well. So don't be put off if you're inside the system. I'm just going to take off the morning of that day. So you can do full days or half days inside the system. Taking that to another level. Okay, so what we can also do within the system is add leave entitlement. So as standard with that workflow, you don't have an entitlement for each user across the year. So each time somebody submits that workflow, it's a case of either approving or rejecting it in the system. What we can do is add an entitlement for each user. And so within our custom plugin for the self-hosted edition of Bitrix24, what we're able to do is we can see here the entitlement for each user. We can then see the current number of days they have booked up, and then we can also see the pending days as well. And that then enables us to see their remaining leave entitlement. So once it gets to 0 for your holiday year, if they submit a new request, then they are rejected because they don't have any leave entitlement left. And if they have any entitlement left at the end of the year, their holiday year, that can be carried over to the next holiday year. And if we go back into the profile page, we can then see all of the approved leave in here, so we could cancel any leave we now don't want to take. And we can then also see the remaining leave entitlement inside the profile page. So that's a custom feature we have created, and it's only available for the self-hosted edition of Bitrix24. So if you are interested in this, then if you've got a self-hosted system, fantastic. We can install this plugin onto your system. So please get in contact and we can discuss what the cost would be. And if you're on a cloud system but you feel this could be a real critical feature, we can migrate you from the cloud system to the on-premise edition, and we can then install this plugin onto there for you. So the self-hosted system, as you can see here, is giving you that extra capability. We can create customizations to really take the Bitrix24 system to the next level in terms of functionality. And now let's just take a look at the leave approval workflow, but now in the background essentially. So let's go into the workflow. And let's just look at the workflow designer tool, because this is how we can construct the workflow in the back end of the Bitrix24 system. Okay, so what we have here, this is called the Business Process Designer tool. So essentially what this tool enables you to do is it allows you to construct your own business processes. It's box and drag and drop technology to enable you to create your processes. Now, this may look quite complex, and you can build very complex workflows in here, and that's where ourselves as a partner who specialises in the Bitrix24 system can really help you get real control of your processes using the Business Process Designer tool. Or we can also provide training if you feel you're confident enough to create your own workflows. Now this is the leave approval that we completed in the front end recently. So inside here we added our information to request a leave, and then that went to our supervisor. Actually using the business process tool is using within the CI of the system. So we can see here we've got the information about this employee in the system. So what we could do is we could take this person through different stages for the onboarding process. And what we can do is we can click on this particular page, and we can then view all of the information about the onboarding of this particular person. So we can see the employee's information, we can see their maybe identification numbers and their salary information, and we can then create different stages for you to progress this particular request. So this is a new feature within the CRM system called Smart Process Automation that allows you to create your own new entities in the system, and from here we can connect this to other entities. So it could be connected, for example, with a contact in the system, or maybe you want to connect it with a deal, for example. We're able to then connect and create those linkages directly inside the system. And another way we can create workflows is using the Robotic Process Automation tool. So again, this is quite a new feature for Bitrix24. And the key reason the Robotic Process Automation tool was created is because people had provided feedback to Bitrix24 that using the Business Process Designer tool, some people found it a bit over complicated to use. So it was complicated to create your own processes. So what Bitrix24 did is they created the Robotic Process Automation tool. So within here what we can see are essentially different types of workflows that we have created. So we can see we have workflows for business trips, for expenses, for new employee onboarding. So let's just go into one of these workflows here, and we can then see, hopefully we'll see, if I just go into our business trip workflow, you'll see how similar this looks to the CRM system. And what we do is use the CRM functionality, especially within the leads and deals section, where you have stages and where you have automation rules. People found that a lot easier to use. So the Robotic Process Automation tool uses a lot of that technology to allow you to create your own workflows inside the system. So here what we can do is we can see the different stages that we have. For example, by the stage, the supervisor is going to be notified. And when it moves back to ourselves, when we need to submit our expenses, we're going to be notified, and then we're going to be given a task to submit the expenses once the trip has been completed. So there are lots of different types of automations that we can set up to essentially streamline your process as you go through the workflow here. And the way we're able to initiate the workflow is by completing the form. So very similar to when we were earlier on creating our leave approval form, here we can now again use a form to submit information to initiate this particular process. Now again, this form is completely customizable. So what we do here is we select the fields that we want to show inside the form. So we can see them here, and we can then create additional fields that we want to show on the form. And then once we go through all of that information, what's really nice with the Robotic Process Automation tool is if I click on one of those requests that's currently in progress, it opens up the page of that request. So you see a full page here, very similar to kind of a lead or a deal, but this is specifically for this particular expense. So this is a trip to London. And what you can see, every single stage here, all of the history is itemized in the system. And also I can add my own notes for this particular request. I'm going to mention my colleague inside this particular request. Okay, so that's all up there at how we can use the Robotic Process Automation tool to create our own workflows in the system. So Bitrix24 really added additional layers of functionality to the workflow sections here. So before we just had the Business Process Designer tool, but now we have the Robotic Process Automation feature to create our own workflows. And then you also have the Smart Process Automation tool to create new entities inside the CRM system, which enables you to again create an area of the Bitrix24 platform, and how we can build out a company structure for storing. Seen today is the employee engagement features, so we can engage with our staff through a variety of types of posts such as messages, events, announcements and appreciations to keep our employees engaged. And then we've seen how we can set access rights across the system.